Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I'm Bill Knight. Happy Thursday to you. Well, we're getting close to the weekend, and things are starting to cook, heat up a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting that talking about this big meeting in Turkey, and then this morning, you noticed it first, and I went and found the story. Apparently, Putin has said, well, if Trump doesn't go, I'm not going. So Zelensky is, I guess, sightseeing right now by himself in Turkey.
He had 2 dates, and they both stood him up.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
My question to you is this. Do you think that Trump is going to say, wait a second, if Putin is going to be there if I show up, then I'm going? Do you think he will? By the way, Marco Rubio is there, and I think Witkoff is there. So we've sent some high-level delegates to monitor the situation. I would think that if Putin says, I'm not going unless Trump goes, I got a feeling Trump is going to say, okay, if it makes the difference between peace and no peace, I'll be there.
Well, one thing it does do, it disrupts the news cycle of what to talk about. Are they going to be there? Are they not going to be there? Because if they're going to be there, then they've got this stack of stories they've prepared to do.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be there. Well, we can't use those stories. What are we going to talk about? And then, are they going to go, oops, they're there? Trump does that. He will sit there and throw something out there, and it may be a test balloon. It may be just a distraction. While while you're chasing that tail, he goes the other direction and goes, oh, by the way, folks, I'm over here. This is where we are.
Well,
he keeps them running.
I watched him this morning when I got up. He was speaking at a Qatar U.S. Air Base, and he had a great welcome there. And when he talks in those kind of settings, he doesn't really follow a script. He just does his own thing. He just talks. And he sometimes is a bit redundant, but he gets a nice warm welcome from the troops. And he's very proud of what's happening right now. He was proud of what happened in Saudi Arabia. He was proud of how the people responded in Qatar and or Qatar. I think they pronounce it, by the way, Qatar. I heard one
That's
of
what
the,
I've always said, Qatar, but you said Qatar. And so
I hear Qatar all the time, and I thought, well, it has to be Qatar, right? Because would the major networks call it the wrong name? And the answer is yes. They would.
Well, would the major networks mislead you?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Would they give you the wrong news? Yeah.
But think of the word guitar and just put Qatar. That's what they
I'm going to play my guitar.
Yes. And I think he's going to end up going to Turkey. I just have the feeling that if that makes the difference, I know that Putin said, I want Trump there. And I'm sure that Trump is probably going to say, well, wait a second. Okay. All right. I'm going to go if that makes a difference. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think he'll be there, but then again, you don't know, and they're sending these different signals out there, but maybe there's a reason for those different signals. You don't know what, when, or where he's going to be, because if there is anybody intent on doing something, protesting, doing some ill will towards the world, I mean, you have some major players in one spot at one time. I mean, if somebody wanted to really do something,
well, that's a good point.
That would be a big monkey wrench into the.
Maybe Trump has been advised by his security. Don't go. Don't be in. We can't secure that place. We can secure a lot of places that can't be secured. So maybe that's why Trump didn't just jump on the bandwagon right off the bat and go. These are interesting times, folks. These are really interesting times. If they stand up Zelensky this time around, I would think that the chances of any peace in the near future is going to be out the window. Because Zelensky, I think, will probably say, no, you're not serious. I flew to Turkey to talk peace, and you didn't show up.
Boy, is that not the pot calling the kettle black? You're not serious? How many times has he gone back on his word?
But, don't you think war, in many cases, it's like two little kids fighting. It's a deadly, deadly game with terrible consequences. But the people who are doing the actual making the decisions in many cases, they act like children.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. If they thought seriously, I mean, what person in their right mind? Think about this for a second. What person in their right mind would say, "Okay, let's have a war and let's really destroy all of our major cities in this region and all of our valuable properties just because we're at war"? I mean, if whoever wins this war, by the way, when it's over, when all is said and done, there are cities that have been obliterated in Ukraine. They're gone. I mean, cities that existed a year ago are now just piles of rubble that are either going to have to be rebuilt or ignored altogether, and they'll never come back. So, I mean, it doesn't. War is not a rational, intellectual answer in many cases. It's a response like two kids who are fighting in the schoolyard.
It's a temper tantrum.
Yes.
It is a temper tantrum, and adults are capable of it. I only referenced somebody I worked with a long time ago, who was a station owner, and every once in a while, you go, "Hey, come in here. I want to talk to you," because it was a family matter that I didn't want to hear. Like he had a daughter that was stepping out of line, and he got so mad, he went into her room and. This beautiful wardrobe that she had and stuff. He goes, "It's really too bad that you're not going to get to use this," and went to whack it up. And I thought, geez, but he needed her to see that he was mad as hell and not going to take it anymore.
There are some major industries in Japan that have a tantrum room.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is you walk into this room. These are all adults, right? You walk into this room. If you're angry at your boss,
let it all hang out.
Well, they'll have clay dolls, or they'll have statues, and you break as many as you want to get it out of your system. They allow their employees to break all this stuff to get it out of their system, and then go back into work, calmly. And I mean, I think war is like that. In many ways, war doesn't make sense, folks. If you stop for a second and think about war, it doesn't make sense. We're going to go into a country and we're going to attack the people and all of the stuff. We're going to show them. We're going to destroy everything they got. And then after the war is over, we're going to end up coming back and we're going to have to pay to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, isn't that what's going on in politics? You've got a party that's gotten their way for so long. They're having a
Bill,
temper.
Maybe we should take a pause here and remind people at this point, because I got a feeling we're going to go into a long segment. We should remind people to like and share our show, please. We've talked this week about being in the middle of a soft civil war.
Mm-hmm.
And, since I've said that on this program this week, I've heard it a couple of times being used on some other platforms.
You invented that phrase, actually.
But it came out of my brain. I didn't get it from somebody else. Maybe it's a coincidence, but we are really and truly in the middle of a soft civil war, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
We are. You hear the Republicans. They are, in many cases, not performing as they promised to their constituents. When Trump was running, they were standing side by side with Trump, saying, "We're going to back him all the way. We're going to follow his plan and his lead. We're going to make sure that everything he does is a success." And then he gets into office, and they are the most underperforming group of people. I'm talking about Congress, the most underperforming group of people you can imagine. They have done very little to back his measures. All those things that DOJ came out, all those recommendations, they should have been stamped like no big deal. We pass it and we're going to codify it and make it law. They haven't done it in many cases. They're screwing around. They are playing games. Look at Tom Tillis, the senator.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's a friggin' Democrat. What the hell is going on with this guy? Is he hiding something? Is he part of something that we should be concerned about? Should we scrutinize that guy's background? Should we maybe consider replacing him in the coming, whenever he runs for re-election? The other thing about senators is they think they have you by the cojones in that, well, it's a 6-year term. Well, I can be a son of a gun for the first half of my term, and everybody will forget by the time I'm running 3 years later. That's got to come to an end. We've got to remember. We've got to be like, have memories of steel. You screw around in the first, year or two of your term, you backstab us on key issues. We've got to constantly remember. Maybe put a book of memories together. So when he runs for re-election, he's got to explain himself.
Well, it would be an encyclopedia website with all the politicians and everything to remember. But then again, who's in charge of putting that out there? Because if they're lefties, you know what kind of stuff they're going to put out there. And
lies.
Yeah. It's kind of like with Grok. There's a big thing now that Grok is woke. And, there's stories all about it. I think it's a deliberate attack against, it's a thumb in the face of Musk. He's got maybe some people in their programming that are manipulating some of the algorithms. But then Grok, any AI program, relies on the internet. And I have noticed certain truths of life have been scrubbed on the internet and changed on the internet. So if that computer, that AI program goes to the internet, it gets the wrong information. I've learned that you have to tell it where to go and how to get it. And all of a sudden, you get an entirely different answer.
Yeah. And we can talk about that in a few minutes. I know where this is going.
Yeah.
Because we had an interesting little...
You were in on that conversation.
Yeah, a little science experiment yesterday with Bill and Grok and me. And it was fascinating to follow how it came to its conclusions, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But I was listening to a program yesterday. Laura Logan was a guest.
Yeah.
She is a brilliant young lady. She's from South Africa, folks, in case you didn't know it. That's where she grew up. And so she has an incredible knowledge of that country and where the people are going right now, and it's not to a good place. It's a beautiful country, apparently. Apparently, it's like a scenic paradise. And she made an interesting point. The people in South Africa who are stealing the farms away from the Afrikaner, the whites, the historically white farmers of that area, they make it sound in the media, and the media follows right along without asking questions. She said they make it sound like they're taking their property back, And Laura Logan said, that's not the case. People don't realize that when the Afrikaner went over to that country to settle, there were no tribes living in that area. There was maybe some Zulus or something, way off in the distance, but the actual property that they claimed for their farmland was not owned by tribes. There weren't people living on that property. They didn't go and take the property away. This is what Laura Logan said. They didn't take the property away from somebody to take it for themselves. So when you hear this, the opposition, the black opposition in South Africa say, we have to kill the white farmer to get our property back, it's a lie. It's not the case. It isn't.
They're stealing property back.
They're stealing, and the sad part about it, she said, was that they're not farmers. So they'll steal the property away from a really good farmer who's had a lot of success, making a pretty decent living on that property. They'll give it to some guy because of his skin color and has no idea what the hell's going on. And they're tanking the business. They're tanking the farms. The farms are going out of business. The guy has no understanding of how to make a farm work. When to plant the seeds, what to do, how to till the soil, whatever it is. The farmer knows how to do it, but this guy they handed to hasn't got a clue. He's never been out of the urban area, and all of a sudden he owns a farm. And what's happening is the economy in South Africa is starting to go south, and she predicts there's going to be mass starvation in South Africa. Mass starvation. Folks, everything the left touches turns to crap. And I don't mean to be crude, but I'm sorry. Everything it touches, because it's socialist. It's a socialist environment. Let's in the 20th century, the leftists came to power in Russia. And yeah, Tsar Nicholas was a bit of a clown. He kind of screwed that up. He made the soil fertile for a takeover. But when the socialists came in, they killed, people don't realize this. People think, Hitler was such a bad guy, killed all those people. Stalin killed more. Stalin killed more. Stalin killed 20 million people. Nobody talks about it. Russia lost 20 million people because of Stalin. He was killing people like it was going out of style. That's socialism. And after all those years of telling everybody how great the Soviet Union was, it tanked towards the end of the 20th century. It tanked. Everyone realized this is going nowhere. We're dying as a country. And it has tried to become a democracy, although it has stumbled terribly because they put, for example, Putin in charge, and Putin is a former KGB agent. His background is what? Socialism. Now, they still have an opportunity in the future to succeed, but I would submit that the next few years are going to be critical for Russia.
And the people that could step in line are probably, no winners either. So they got a problem. But, we talk about socialism. You've got the Democrat Party, which is infiltrated with socialists.
Right.
And if they get a hold of it, we will become a socialist nation.
Oh, in a heartbeat, Bill.
Yeah. And I mean, AOC is part of it. Bernie Sanders is passing that wand of this socialism thing that he's built.
What a phony. Bill, he spends his time flying around the country on private jets.
Yeah.
But he wants you to live as a socialist.
Yeah. What's good for you, it's not good enough for me, but I'm telling you what to do. And it's sad. Just go back to, like you said, look at Stalin, and that's where we will be. Oh, we would never kill off our population. Oh, no, yeah, we would. And we've got moguls out there that want to reduce the population. They might be already doing it without us knowing it through vaccines and other things, and the things that are in the air, the chemtrails, and I know it's conspiracy, and maybe the food that we eat.
The other thing is this. I'm sick of using the word conspiracy because they've made it thanks to the New York Times. That's where it came from. Conspiracy theory is a term that the New York Times came up with, and I think it was during the Warren papers and stuff like that. Conspiracy theories about the JFK assassination. So, and all of a sudden now, it's become like a bad word, a bad term, conspiracy theory. I would just simply say, forget the conspiracy part. It's a theory. It is a theory. And you're allowed to have a theory. We as a country have existed and done pretty well thanks to different theories, different opinions, different ideas.
Well, democracy was a theory once.
That's exactly right. This whole thing that we're living in called the United States was, dare I say, a theory.
Yeah. So, why is it such a bad thing to say conspiracy theory? Because it means that there's probably some truth.
It's because the left can label us, Bill. The left can.
It's all about label and division.
Yeah, we can minimize and marginalize us. Look at the world, folks. Look at how the world is reacting to the visit of President Trump. They're flying out with their jets and greeting his Air Force One, and they're giving him a royal parade in their countries. They're cheering him. They're delighted that he's there. And he comes back to this country, and the media is on him like flies on manure. They are they're trying to desperately pull him down. Yet the rest of the world loves the guy. This is and it's because Bill gets back to the socialism thing. We're in the middle of that soft civil war right now. Right now, the left controls the news media. You know, they control the mouthpiece, the megaphone. They control it. And they can say whatever they want. They can spin whatever story they want. Look at what's coming out right now. Jake Tapper comes out with a book today, I believe. And in this book, he had an epiphany. Joe Biden was not a functional president. Joe Biden was living in a cognitively confused world. He wasn't the right man for the job. He never should have been president. But yet when Jake Tapper was a newsman, an active newsman, he fought to keep Biden in there. He defended Biden's intellect and his sharp wit and all this other nonsense that anybody who was just looking at their TV knew was a lie. But that's how they work on the left. The left figures that you're not paying attention and you'll believe whatever they say. If they say it long enough and hard enough, you'll believe it. And that can't be. You've got to start using your heads, folks. You got to start using your heads and we did, by the way. I applaud us for this. We did in the last election. 77 million people said, I don't care what you say about Kamala Harris. I'm voting for Trump. You know, and so far, it hasn't been a wrong decision. But here's what Trump's running into. Two things could have happened. This is what Laura Logan said, too. Two things could have happened. They could have folded when Trump got into office. The deep state could have thrown in the white towel, thrown in the towel, or they could have doubled down. And what have they done? They have doubled down. The left has decided that they're going to go harder. They're going to lie longer. They're going to do whatever they can do, whatever they can do to pull this administration down. They will do. They will not say one damn thing that is good about this administration. Look at the hearings. Look at all these hearings we're seeing right now, where these Democratic representatives, they have opportunities to say something good. They have opportunities to say, well, that was a good move, and we're happy that you did that because it was for the good of the country. But they won't do it. They will not do it. They will get on that soapbox of theirs at every opportunity and pull down on this administration. They've doubled down. Now, and by the way, they're going to try to steal the midterms.
Definitely.
Bill, they are teeing up right now. They can't win it, but I think you're going to find one other thing right now down the road that I don't think they're going to count on. I think Trump is going to do a direct appeal to the midterm voters as to the importance of that election and how people of like mind have got to be either reelected or voted into office. I think he's going to use his weight to try to influence that. But Bill, if they use computer systems and stuff like that,
well, they got it. If they do computers,
yeah,
they can control it. We mentioned Grok and how that works, but if you control the news, you control the narrative, you control reality, you control what is truth and what is not truth, and that doesn't mean the truth they speak is really the truth, but that's how it's worked throughout history. And Trump is already campaigning now, but they're doing all they can too to sit there and pump the negative news out there, and it's uniform too. I mean, if you sit there and go on social media, you see all the negative posts. As a matter of fact, if you notice, there is a direction that it's going. It's everybody's doing the same post. It's orchestrated to where that they want to do this hate Trump thing, bad Republican, and it's the worst president ever.
Oh,
You know,
that last part you just said there. Anybody who's paying attention will say it's the most successful 100+ days in the history of the presidency. He's done more in his short time in office than any president ever. But if you listen to the Democrats, they are saying things like the most failed president in the history of our country. They're doing all this negative nonsense that isn't truthful. They have no problem. The left has no problem lying to your face.
hmm they do it all the time. I mentioned to you, and you mentioned deep fakes, and it is true because I said there was something odd with it. But there's it's all over the news now. It was never there before in media if you did a search for it. Ronald Reagan on tariffs. And, if you think back, and when you see Ronald Reagan speak, I could be wrong, but I don't remember him sitting at a chair holding a stack of, typing paper with, obviously a script on it, him reading it and, stumbling through the lines as if he didn't really know what he was reading. It didn't come from the top of his head or his mind. You look at his speeches, he didn't have a script in front of him. He delivered the message because it was from his heart, from his mind. And
Bill, what was he? He was an actor for decades.
exactly.
And what does an
So
actor
he's
do? An actor memorizes his lines.
exactly. And even if he doesn't do them exactly, he does the gist of it because once you've read this over a few times, you know the story. So you know it. Now, if you read it enough times, all of a sudden you really know it. But he didn't know this. And he was talking about the fallacies of tariffs. And, I get a thing that is Cindy Lauper goes, oh, must read, can't comment. Well, when we post our show, I say can't comment because I don't want somebody, booger-faced kid somewhere, doing something to the post. But the simple fact is it didn't make sense. And now I'm sitting there seeing it cropping up as if it's been there all along. And it hasn't.
One of the few people that I would ever pay political attention to is Cindy Lauper, by the way.
Oh,
You know,
no.
I
Well,
mean,
that was the other, the big red flag on. Yeah, Cindy Lauper,
yeah,
I
please.
mean, that would be like getting something from Weird Al Yankovic.
There's a story, by the way. I like the guy. He's Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise. He does what I think every actor should do. He doesn't blend politics and acting. He
Not
doesn't.
a good idea.
He obviously he's come to the conclusion that people like his work, and he wants as many people as he can get to sit in those seats and watch his work. And he's not going to get it if he divides his audience politically.
Polarizing. You don't want to be polarizing.
So a reporter yesterday, I guess he was in Texas, and a reporter said, "Well, what do you think about President Trump?" And what he wanted him to make a political statement, and I think Cruz answered by saying, "I think we're all here to talk about the movie." He was polite, but he didn't want to. He wasn't going in that direction. He wasn't being pulled into a discussion about politics. He was there to talk about his little fantasy world, his movie, which is how I think all the actors should be. I used to like, for example, I'll be honest, I used to like the acting of Robert De Niro. I cannot
He
separate.
played a good tough guy.
Yeah,
Hey,
Bill,
you're
I
talking
can't separate. I can't separate the two anymore. The actor and the
No.
guy who doesn't like Trump. I can't look at him acting without thinking this guy's what a phony. I can't believe in his fictional character anymore when I'm watching him do a movie because I know that's not what he is. He's something else completely.
Well, he stepped over the line too, because sometimes your political persuasion shows through. You're conservative, you're liberal, but he went beyond and got into that negative, in your face, cussing at you, blank this and blank Trump and blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm gonna. then Joe Biden, yeah, I'm going to take you out behind the fence or the barn.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
listen here, you lopsided individual. I'm not going to call him a name, and I only say that because he wants to pick on, different things. He's not a perfect individual either. Neither am I,
Yeah.
but
You know,
don't make it personal like that,
but a
buddy.
lot of them do it. You have Sean Penn. And boy, I hate to
Sean who?
say it, Sean, you look like 50 miles of bad road right now. Now, I got to tell you, I don't look like I did when I was a younger man either. But you keep smoking those cigarettes and drinking that booze, and it's going to kill you.
Well, if his voice gets gravelly, and like that, he'd make a great FM rock jock. With that sound like you've been up all night drinking, smoking cigarettes. That perfect for a rock station.
You know what people don't realize is how much free time actors have when they're doing a movie.
Oh,
People don't realize that much of the day you spend in your trailer, waiting for the other people who are building the sets and getting the cameras in place and adjusting the lighting. They can spend all day working on getting things just right so that you can come out and do 20 minutes worth of a scene, and that's it for the day. And then
yeah.
when the movie's done, you get paid an enormous amount of money to participate, and then you'll spend maybe a couple of years doing nothing, waiting for your next project to come along.
Yeah, I mean, to do a scene that's might be on film, a little 5-minute scene,
Yeah.
set up and doing the scene.
Well, you just did a
a couple of weeks ago.
a couple of weeks ago. Bill is in a movie coming out, I guess, toward the end of the year or beginning of next year, and it's hurry up and wait. The cameras are being set up.
I was there. I was on set at 6 a.m. The crew was there.
When did you first roll camera on you?
Me?
Yeah,
My face?
your scene. When did they first start shooting your scenes?
2:45.
8 hours he waited.
Yeah.
I think that gives you a good idea of the kind of business that is. And by the way, the crew was working all that time getting everything ready.
Yeah, they're doing everything, doing the lighting, testing everything, and what are you doing sitting there going, yeah, we got coffee, we got Dunkin'
Yeah.
Donuts and stuff like that. Okay, lunch is here. We got chicken cordon bleu. And you're sitting there going, I can't be eating all this stuff because
Yeah.
my pants aren't going to fit when I go out and do this thing.
I look like a different character from shot to shot.
Yeah.
So, and Cindy Lauper, and that probably was a deep fake. And by the way, if you wonder how good deep fakes are nowadays,
They're perfect.
I'm going to just drift away for a second. This morning, I'm getting ready for the show, and I stumble across the classic scene from My Cousin Vinny when Joe Pesci is representing his client, and he's talking to Fred Gwynn, the judge, and he says, the two Utes, and the Fred Gwynn goes, the two what? The two Utes. The two what? And then he realizes the two youths, Your Honor. All right, that was the classic scene. We all know it. If you've seen the movie, you immediately know what I'm talking about. The video I saw this morning, because of AI, they took all of the characters and they made them babies. All right? They made Joe Pesci's character a baby, Fred Gwynn's character a baby. They all resembled, in a way, Fred Gwynn and Joe Pesci, and they all had the same costumes on, but they were babies. And it was funny as heck to see him do it. The reason why I mention that is that's the power of AI. They can do it. You can say, I want this scene done, but I want it done with an old man. Okay, give me a few seconds. And all of a sudden you'll see it, a video of it. And it'll be that scene with an old man. The day's going to come, Bill, when they'll be making movies and they won't even have sets anymore. You will give the computer the storyline, maybe the script, maybe explain how things should be, and the computer, the AI, will generate the film. You won't have actors.
AI can do it now. If you write an article, it can generate the photo. It takes stock photo, or it makes a drawing for it. If you got Canva, you can go in there and basically you tell it what you wanted to. You figure out what the background's going to be, what it's going to be, and the AI can come in and pretty much give you exactly what you want.
And this is now. Can you imagine in a few years down the road? Down the road, it'll be widescreen. It'll look so realistic you just won't imagine that it's AI anymore. You know, there's another thing. You may have seen this. It's all over Facebook. They can take still pictures, old still pictures.
Put them in motion.
Yes. They can put them in motion, add color to them, and all of a sudden these 160-year-old pictures come to life. Maybe the character blinks and smiles. Maybe they walk a few steps. And all of a sudden you get an idea of what the character looked like. I'm talking about like Ben Franklin, maybe Abraham Lincoln. You see them animated. And it's mind-boggling. But that's what can happen with these incredible tools, these incredible instruments, AI. And that's what, by the way, Melania Trump is talking about with deep fakes. They can do that for the good, and they can do that for the bad, too.
Didn't she advocated for that in the past? I don't see that being stopped, though.
Well, you know what? She was hers was, a lot of it was sexual. They were taking things like young girls who had done nothing wrong. You know, maybe they were being picked on by someone in their class, and that someone figured, we're going to show that person, and we're going to put her in a compromising position, and we're going to give her, it'll make it look just like she did a certain whatever, and that's the kind of thing that has happened. Kids have gone to school and found out that thanks to AI, they're now on a viral video that's going around not just their school, but maybe the world. And this is the kind of thing that she was working on, I think, Bill, trying to stop that. But I don't know, Bill, how you're going to stop it. How do you stop it with borders? I mean, if your server is in the Ukraine, how do you stop it? I mean, isn't that cat out of the bag?
Yeah, I would say it would be, but I don't know. There's so much going on. It's hard to keep up with everything. But I do know one thing.
What's that, Bill?
If you're listening to the show and you're going, darn, that's a great show.
Yeah.
Then don't forget to like and share.
It's kind of an interesting show today. In that, not that they're all not interesting, but I mean,
everyone is absolutely. You know, there should be a class in all the schools dedicated to the Jim and Bill show.
I agree. We should be a mandatory course. You can't graduate until you listen to our podcast, but
and have a cup of right side coffee too. We'll talk about that later.
That's true. We are in that soft civil war we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to end anytime soon, and you got to pray for our president. He has run into a big stumbling block in D.C. All of these things that he started to put into motion with Elon Musk and company, a lot of it has come to a grinding halt, or definitely slowed down big time, because the deep state is doing stuff you wouldn't believe. For example, it is being speculated by people like Lara Logan and myself that many of the people who are in Washington who have been instructed to do something by the president
are not doing it.
Are ignoring him. They're intentionally ignoring his orders. He's coming out with these mandatory executive orders, and they are being signed. They're being held up for the cameras, and the people who run these operations are just going about business as usual.
Because what they're saying is, he's not my president, therefore I do not have to answer to him. I didn't vote for him. And that's how the Democrats look at it. They're going, we don't accept the election. They told us we had to accept their election.
Absolutely.
Even though we know it was stolen. They will not accept this election by the people, for the people, of the people. They won't accept it. As a matter of fact, they're thumbing their nose at it, and they're, like you said, doing business as usual. And if they have to break things, they're willing to break things.
There's talk out there that they've got to arrest some of these people who've done some. I'm talking about those, for example, those 3 people up in the detention center up in Newark who actually attacked the ICE agents. They were representatives, and of course, they immediately came back and said they were put upon. It was them; they were the victims. But there's video, fortunately, of them attacking the ICE agents. And now there's a call for from people on the right to put those representatives in cuffs. And they're literally, people like Hakeem Jeffries and AOC are saying, you do that and you crossed a red line. And there's gonna be hell to pay. They are literally threatening this administration for doing its job legally.
Well, I would say it's a little different than threatening. They're taunting them because I think that they want to videotape them being arrested and try to turn themselves into martyrs, that the news media will be all over to shift public opinion. They'll use that.
Do you think they're looking for the opportunity to go into some kind of a pushing, shoving, maybe even a physical war?
Absolutely.
Well, this is where the left has gone. The left has gone not a little bit to the left, but a lot to the left. They have gone to an area that has been delegated to the communists, in my opinion. They've embraced that. They are more communistic, the left is right now, than traditional Democratic. The Democrat Party of, let's say, Robert F. Kennedy, the Democratic Party of John F. Kennedy, they were traditional Democrats. They were middle of the road. They were a lot like the Republicans are, the MAGA movement is today. And yet, there was a hearing yesterday, Washington, D.C. RFK Jr. was being grilled by some fatheads in Congress, but that wasn't the thing that stood out. Out of nowhere, literally nowhere, all of a sudden, someone starts screaming in the audience, and another person starts screaming in the audience. One guy stands up. He's wearing a suit. You would have thought he was a senator. He wasn't. He was a troublemaker. He starts screaming. But the thing that caught me was, as soon as you hear the first scream, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. winced and ducked down like he expected the worst. And I was thinking to myself, this is the damage that has been done by the assassinations of his uncle and his father. Whether you believe it or not, every day that young man lives, or he's not a young man so much anymore, but every day that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. walks this earth, he lives with the stress of what happened that day to his father and his uncle. But I'm going to play for you the audio. I want you to hear the rowdiness at the hearing. They should not just escort them from the building. They should have put them in cuffs and locked these people up. Listen.
More with less. The budget I'm presenting today supports these goals and reflects.
The witness will suspend. The committee will come to order. Capitol Police are asked to remove the individuals from the hearing room. Members of the audience are reminded disruptions will not be tolerated. Members of the audience are reminded disruptions will not be permitted while the committee conducts its business. Capitol Police are asked to remove the individuals from the hearing room.
Okay, listen.
Orchestrated.
It is orchestrated. And by the way, why can't the hearings be closed hearings? You can't tell me that they didn't know this was going to happen, Bill.
Well, they knew it was going to happen, and the people that were in there they were waiting for a key point. If you noticed, they didn't just kind of lull into it. It was instant at a certain point, in conversation. And that doesn't happen in real rallies or protests or anything like that unless these people are, instructed or paid participants to be there and do exactly what they're doing.
And again, when the first person starts to scream, watch the video. RFK ducks down like he's about to be shot, and it's sad. I had never understood, Bill, how you can be watching a hearing and all of a sudden these code pink people will jump up in their seats and start to cause a problem. And I'm thinking to myself, doesn't anybody see these people are wearing pink hats and pink ties or pink skirts or pink whatever when they go into the room? They didn't dress up while they were there.
It's a choir of protesters, because they all chant at the same time. They pretty much chant the same stuff. They're just a bad choir. That's all.
Yeah. It is only the beginning, unfortunately, folks. Trump is only a little over 100 days into office, and this is only the beginning.
Well,
they will do, in my opinion, Bill, this summer is going to be like 2020 when they had Seattle and Minneapolis and Portland, the fires and the problems. The difference is, I think, that Trump is going to come down big time with a hammer to stop those demonstrations.
Sadly for Trump, he inherited a mess. I mean, and it goes from A to Z, all kinds of problems. So no matter how many he fixes and how quick he fixes it, there are people to unravel what he's done in place, and then, something as simple as higher food prices. And that's actually a complicated issue because we talked about before he was ever elected, all the facilities that were shutting down, the warehouses, that were burning down, whatever. They met ill fate. And all of a sudden, well, the prices keep going up on groceries. Well, now, they're going, Trump fault.
Well,
it's all his fault. But
the most recent crisis right now with food is a shortage in beef. Did you know that? A beef shortage.
Well, it's going to get worse because there is that screwworm or whatever that's in the meat.
southern border, yeah. But right now, the problem is they don't have the herds like they used to have for a number of different reasons, and it's affected the bottom line. By the way, the herd depletion started during the Biden administration. And the other thing we're going to start seeing, I think, Bill, is that poultry. We're going to see the cost of poultry go up because of all the different farms that have been destroyed during the Biden administration. No one talks about that. We had a massive attack during the last 4 years on our food supply, and nobody says a word about it.
Do you not think it was deliberate? Because we are the breadbasket, and all of a sudden everything is gone to hell in a handbasket. You can look at COVID and diseases. Measles have come back to rear its ugly head, which when it was eradicated, there was the plant that is poisonous that grows wild in the United States had been eradicated, and it's what killed Notre Dame. Just the touch of it will sit there and make you suffocate. And all of a sudden, well, this is cropping up all over in Tennessee and around the border and all over the United States. And they show a picture of it. I'm going, I don't even know what the hell this plant looks like. I could have it around in my yard.
Yeah.
I forget what it was called, but if you look up what killed him and what the plant was, and then you look up the story, it's everywhere now. It's an epidemic. How are all these things just manifesting themselves all at once?
Because maybe it's intentional. The whole thing is intentional. Maybe the left, maybe this goes back to that deep state, those big heads who want to see us.
Well, this is beyond the left.
They want to reduce our population. And this is a fact. Bill Gates has said this. He wants to reduce the population from 6 billion worldwide to 550 million.
Yeah, basically about the size of the United States.
Well, the United States is 330 million, so it's the United States and then some, But
United States and 120 million.
But you have a couple billion or $1.5 billion in China alone.
Yeah.
Where do these people go? What do they intend to do? This is the sickness of the deep state.
Well, yeah, and if we're going to do genocide, who gets to go and who gets to stay.
Well, they get to stay because
Yeah,
they are producers. They make stuff. You can't stay. I mean, you work on an auto line. Oh, you just help to put cars together, or maybe
is there a criteria of race, sex, whatever it is?
That's a good point. Are they going to start getting rid of the riff-raff, as they would think? As they would say?
I mean, yeah, I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff here that just, makes it's more than makes you want to go,
Tell me, they call us, meaning MAGA, they call MAGA Nazis. But who's the Nazi? I mean, during Hitler's time, when there were real Nazis, Hitler had a pretty good thing going, like in 1940. He didn't have to go to war. His country was making stuff. It was coming back from a depression. He was growing. I mean, industry-wise. And all of a sudden, Hitler figured, I need more land. He didn't need more land, but he liked Czechoslovakia and Poland looked pretty good. Next thing you know, he's taking these countries over. And but he didn't. It was always something more. He had money. He didn't need to do what he did, but it was the obsession to have more and to have more power, more control over life and death. Think about what he did to people in the camps. I mean, this guy got to a point in his life when he had no problem giving the thumbs up or the thumbs down, to people's existence. Much like the pharaohs and the kings did back in the Roman days. The Colosseum, they at the very end of a match, the victor would come over and essentially say to the king, what do you want me to do with this guy? Do you want me to let him live or let him die? And these kings would think about it for a second and consider it like they would consider a menu for dessert, and then give either a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and that would be it. If it was a thumbs down, off went his head or whatever, they slit his throat or whatever. And that's how Hitler got. Hitler got to a point where he was that way with people. You wonder, how can a guy, for example, like Bill Gates, who has more money than brains, how can a guy who has all that going for him? Well, he's got houses, he's got boats, he's got the existences that we can only imagine. We can only read about him in books, right? And yet, his thinking, he's thinking along the lines of, we've got to minimize the population. We've got to shrink the population. I mean, what the hell is this guy doing? Doesn't he have a hobby or something? Doesn't he have something else going on in his life? He's thinking about shrinking the population. Has he looked at maybe, for example, at infants? Has he gone into maybe a baby wing in a hospital and look at the little people who are coming into the world? To me, it's like this guy would have no problem just get rid of them all. We don't need them. They're overpopulating. They're extra mouths that we don't need to feed. That's what he's talking about. I mean, I'm not trying to be weird here, but he's talking about shrinking our population from 6 billion to 550 million. And I don't know any other way of doing it except by killing people.
Well, he's been guilty of it before. I mean, with experimentation and whatnot. I'm not going to go into that big long debate, but if you look it up, you can find it on Bill Gates. He's not the saint that he would like you to think he is. I know he's right now, because of USAID. He's trying to say, oh, we're cutting all those programs. I'm going to take my wealth and give you $200 million or something like that. Well, dude, if you're going to take all your wealth, take all your wealth. I mean, take the billions. But,
they'll never do that. No, that's too much. There's too much control.
Oh, he says he's going to liquidate it all before he and his wife die. You know what I say on that? BS. He's full of it.
Trust me. Even if he were to give 3/4 of his income away, he'd still have more than you ever can imagine. I mean, these people have more money than some small nations.
Whatever he says he's going to give away, He's probably got 100-fold of that hidden away that you don't know about.
Yeah. Trust me, they'll never give it all away. It won't happen. I'm sorry. Anyway, I should point out that now would be a good time to remind people that if you like what you're listening to right now, we're on a new platform, by the way, and we're kind of rebuilding our audience. We have a terrific audience, and we appreciate it. A lot of them have migrated over, but we got to remind people that we're still here. Some people think that we just disappeared because we left one platform to go to another. And so it's important, if you would, to take a moment and like and share our show. You know, John Brennan, former Intel guy under Obama, not a very reputable guy. I believe, speaking of the deep state, I believe he's a charter member of the deep state. He is a guy not to be trusted. Well, he made some comments yesterday about he was really ticked off that I think it was Tulsi Gabbard got rid of the director of national intelligence.
Yes, she did.
Fired 2 key people because she found that these people were not supporters of Trump or their agenda. So she removed them, which makes sense, folks. I'm sorry if you're not on our train and we're running the train now. Then you got to get off. You're not going to contribute to our success. You're only going to slow us down. Then you got to get off of the next station. That's essentially what happened. But Brennan, who, by the way, he had his security. That's another thing. Security clearances, Bill. Laura Logan said, Trump got rid of a lot of security clearances on a lot of people, including Brennan. Yeah. They're still getting information. They're still getting.
How are they getting that information?
From other deep staters. They're still giving them stuff that he had when he had the clearances. They are doing things now that are absolutely, totally illegal.
Treasonous.
Absolutely, Bill. Mm-hmm. And they're getting away with it so far. But, you got to think Trump knows about it. I mean,
sure he does, but it's how you get to it and weed it out. Because you've got to set the stage so that when the news media comes in to do their little thing, it's going to be hard for them to fluff over it.
Yeah.
And cover it up.
We got to listen to John Brennan. John Brennan was ticked off that these 2 people were fired. Listen.
This whole thing just makes me livid. It's appalling and outrageous and demonstrates why Tulsi Gabbard never should have been confirmed as Director of National Intelligence. Michael Collins and Marie Langen-Rykoff are 2 of the most experienced, accomplished, and talented analysts in the entire U.S. intelligence community. With over 60 years of combined experience, they have worked for successive administrations since the 1990s. They have demonstrated time and time again their capabilities, their competence, their integrity, and they have served as role models for a generation of intelligence officers inside of CIA. They're CIA officers by background and by training. And this is going to have real reverberations within the workforce because, as Congressman Hines pointed out, it's clearly a signal to tell analysts throughout the intelligence community, you tell the truth, you provide objective analysis as you're supposed to be doing, you are running the risk of getting fired. And Michael and Maria are really the quintessential analysts that you want to have providing insight and information and analysis to policymakers so they make the right decisions for U.S. policymakers. But this is a very tangible example of such dangerous and insidious corruption within the Trump administration.
Amazing. He is, I find the guy despicable, and he always has been. He is a liar, and he's not on our side.
No, not at all. I'm sitting here looking, did we talk about yesterday? Because if not, we probably ought to mention, because I know it's got to drive the left nuts.
What's that, Bill?
And that was, in Qatar, that all the deals that Trump walked away with 600, maybe even more. I think we did mention it yesterday.
That was in Saudi Arabia.
In Saudi Arabia, yeah. He's on the way to Qatar. But, yeah, he got that there. And then, of course, he did go to Qatar, and they gave him a king's welcome there. So it's amazing what's going on.
Yeah. The other thing is this. There was an impeachment process that was underway in the House, put together by that household name, Sri Thanadar. What? Sri Thanadar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sri Thanadar is a representative from Michigan who...
Yeah, Detroit.
Yeah, from people, honest to God, they didn't know who this guy was until he came out with this impeachment idea, which went over like a pregnant pole vaulter, like screen doors on a submarine. He said, I guess recently, Bill, you told me this morning that he had finally pulled the impeachment idea.
Yeah, I guess it was late yesterday. He's pulled the articles. Well, what I should clarify that. I think he suspended that for a while. I think he's going to sit on them because I do believe there's a concerted effort by the left, and I think that they're racing towards the midterms. And like you said, if we keep it digital, they probably are going to steal it again, and then they're going to unleash all kinds of havoc on the White House and Trump probably won't make it through his full term.
Is it me, or do other people notice the quality of representatives that are in Congress right now are incredibly low quality? I mean, people who they don't appear to even have a college education. Not that that's the end-all, be-all, but I mean, they don't seem to be qualified to be sitting in the halls of Congress. This guy, Sri Thanadar, if you see him and hear him talk, he looks like a character from the Muppet Show, and he's an empty suit. I'm going to play a cut for you. It's about 3 minutes long, maybe 4 minutes long. I want you to hear it because this will give you the idea of the guy who had placed the impeachment, thing in motion because he wanted to get rid of Trump. He wanted to get rid of Trump. This Sri Thanadar. At the end of this segment, I want you to pay attention now. You're going to hear what sounds like crickets. The visual of that is the town hall meeting he goes into in this relatively good-sized conference room, and there's like 7 people there. This is the guy who is trying to take down maybe the most popular president in history, Sri Thanadar, being interviewed by us, obviously somebody who is a conservative. Listen.
You're getting nailed with this one. The beagles. You abandoned the beagles, left them to die in their cages.
Oh, I love animals. See, look, I love animals.
Yes, he does. He loves beagles to death. And if there's anything in life that Detroit Congressman Sri Thanadar loves more than beagles, it's impeaching Donald J. Trump.
You want to impeach Trump again, and why is that? Is it 3rd time's the charm?
Well, look, he has done unconstitutional activities, broken the law.
Give me a list.
Well, look, he has deported people that without due process.
You mean Obregon Garcia?
Yes, he has.
He did get his process, though. He got adjudicated to be deported.
Yeah, well, look, the Supreme Court asked him in a 9-0 decision to facilitate bringing Mr. Garcia back.
Okay,
and he refused to do that.
What if we brought Garcia to Guantanamo? Would that satisfy you?
Well, look, so he defied Supreme Court orders.
Is this a fundraising stunt? Your campaign owes you $11 million. Why not just forgive the loan? Are you not worth the money?
I always forgive the loan. That's what happened when I ran for governor, and not a penny of my loan was paid by the campaign, and I forgave it. And that's what it will end up happening.
It will end up happening.
Yeah, because
still on the books, though.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah.
A little trivia. Where is the Hitsville Museum?
Which museum?
Hitsville.
I don't know.
What are the 5 Grosse Pointe cities?
Well, look, I'm not here to answer a quiz. I'm here to say that I'm going to fight for the people of Detroit. I'm going to fight for my constituents and all of the Grosse Pointes and all of Taylor and every part of the 13th district.
Let me just do this real quick. Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe Woods, Grosse Pointe Farms, and Grosse Pointe Shores. Okay. That's right. On your campaign filings, it says occupation. Yours says United States government. Aren't you employed by the people on the United States?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, you fix that one. Okay, and finally, you're getting nailed with this one. The beagles. You abandoned the beagles, left them to die in their cages at your
I
pharmaceutical
love
testing.
animals. See, look, I love animals. My family loves animals. We have raised a beagle, a Shiva. Those are all, attacks, political attacks on me. I love animals.
Is there an explanation real quick?
I have been awarded by the Humane Society. They've given me 2 awards as the best legislator in protecting animal rights. So my record is good.
And here's a video of the cages right now. Video.
We believe that they have never been outside ever. I don't think that they've actually had their paws on the grass.
I don't know what all the problem is with it anyway, because those beagles were going to die because they're getting tested anyway. So,
Look, I love animals. Thank you.
vegetarian.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. This is good. A couple of the co-sponsors pulled their name off of the impeachment papers. Why is that?
Well, they have a right to do that.
Of course they do. Well, why'd they do it?
I don't know. You have to ask them.
See you. Thank you. It's Congressman Sri Tanadar, the 13th Congressional District, here at the town hall meeting on the Trump impeachment process. Sure to be a barn burner here on this Mother's Day weekend. Let's go inside, shall we?
And there's nobody there. I'm literally showing multiple pictures of empty chairs. This guy is a ding-dong. By the way, the guy who doubled down on the beagles because he had, I guess, labs that he was running medical tests on these animals. And I guess when the pressure came down on him to inspect him, he just walked away from these buildings and left the dogs without food or care. Just abandoned the dogs.
Because he didn't care about them. Look, he got money from them being tested. And he talks about his district that he doesn't know who his district is.
That's exactly right. By the way, Hitsville is in Detroit. It's the old Motown studios.
Right. I mean, if he had black votes, he just told them to go to hell.
But
with that, they know
this guy. I don't know how he gets voted in. I don't know how he gets voted in. I don't know how that lady, those 2 women who were causing a problem at that detention center in Newark, I don't know how they get voted in. I don't know how AOC gets voted in. She spends all.
Where did his money come from?
I don't know. I do
not know. So
he
gives himself a loan. He doesn't get paid back by the DNC.
He forgives it, but he doesn't tell you. Oh,
he
you
gets
forgive
a tax
it.
write-off on it.
Yeah, but you forgive it, but do you still collect it?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy
Probably
to say
not.
I forgive the loan, but I expect to get paid for it. You know?
Yeah.
Hey. What?
He's a crook, and
Yes.
That's the whole Democratic Party. Because why are they allowing this clown, or are they starting to realize we got a real clown in our clown show? Because this guy, he's a piece of work.
Yeah, folks, you gotta. If you've never seen this guy, do a search. Do a search right now for Sri Thanadar. SHRITHANEDAR.
Don't judge him by his looks. That would be very unfair to do.
That would be
I would
racist.
understand
Yes.
that you would do that, but
Yes.
it would be a very unfair
The mere fact
thing.
that he looks like a character, like I said, from the Muppet Show, don't take that into consideration at all.
Not at all.
No, really. As Bugs Bunny, you remember Bugs Bunny? As Bugs Bunny once said,
What a maroon. What an ignoramus. What a tararagoondier.
absolutely.
I think that last statement by Bugs is right on the money.
Yeah,
Tararagundier.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they all kind of fit, though. What a maroon.
Well, yeah, they all do. But I mean, Tararagundier.
Yeah,
That's the punchline.
Yeah, you always liked that one.
I sing it all the time in the shower. Tararagundier, give me the soap today.
Yeah, I've heard that about you.
Jeez.
So he pulled thank goodness for, I guess someone probably took him aside and said, if you intend to participate in our party further, pull that impeachment thing right now because it's going nowhere. Because he's asking for a vote when he doesn't control Congress. So what he was probably promised was, look, if we can control the midterms, we can bring it back. You can reintroduce it when we have the reins.
So you got this clown in the Democratic Party. You got AOC in the Democratic Party. You got Crockett in the Democratic Party. Boy, these are really some strong characters.
Yeah, well, it makes if it kind of depresses you actually when you realize these are the people who are in Congress. So, Bill, we got to talk a little bit about what's happening today. It's supposed to be a monumental day in the world of politics.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Governance, yeah. We were told as recently as 6 hours ago that Putin was going to meet with Zelensky, and if there was a deal that was about to happen, there was a possibility that Trump might make a side trip to Istanbul and join them for the meeting. Then this morning, I'm getting the show ready. We're talking, and all of a sudden you said, well, I guess they're not going to meet. I guess Putin's not going, which was a surprise. Putin has said that he's not going to go to the meeting unless Trump is there. What do you think?
I don't know. Again, it could be just all, a charade that, they're going to be there, but they just don't want to tip their hat on too many things. I don't know. It just seemed odd that story came out at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
They're not going to be there. There's the time difference. So I would, and, right now as we're recording, it's way later in the day there. So
7 hours difference? I think it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
So it's either happened or it hasn't happened by the time you hear this show, which means that we're in the morning here in East Coast time, we're saying, they said, 4 hours ago, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
I got to wonder because, that 4 hours ago was still maybe 3 or 4 hours ahead of us right now. So I don't know. It's not looking good.
The other thing we haven't talked about is the talks with Iran. One of the things that Trump did when he was in Saudi Arabia, and he did it when he was talking in Qatar, is about how he wanted the help from other Middle Eastern countries to get the Iranians to come to the table and to negotiate the elimination of their nuclear program and to join the world again, come out of isolation and be a part of the world. And I guess they've had 4 meetings so far, and very little is coming out. I don't see any big stories coming out, which could be a good thing. Maybe they're keeping everything close to the vest. They want to keep it out of the press so that they can negotiate in private so that when they do come out, they've got something to say.
Well, he's got good key people in place, trying to get things worked out. So we'll see.
You know what else? We should also point out that whatever you do today, whatever you're paying attention to today, you should do it with a cup of Jim and Bill's Right Side coffee in your hand because it's a delicious medium blend roast. It is delicious coffee. And you can't buy it just everywhere. You have to go to one specific place to get it. And that's our rightsideshop.com gift shop. Rightsideshop.com. And if you forget that, we have an easier way of getting to that site. You can go to either It's Another Day, our website, and hit the button that says Right Side Shop, or you can visit our brand new website, which we think is going to be our principal site in the future, called jimandbill.com. Jimandbill.com. How do you forget that? Jimandbill.com. And I'm surprised some morning zoo program hasn't picked that up for a.
Well, they can't because we
own it.
Have it. Yeah, we own it, and it's another day. We're not letting that go. It'll just it'll refer to the one site. So it'll Essentially, now you go it'sanotherday.com or jimandbill.com. You get us. You just get 2 different website versions at one point in time. At some point in time, it'll be just one website version for either name.
And no matter what site you go to, you'll hear Juan Jose and the Border Crossers sing our jingle.
Wake up on the side with Right Side Coffee.
Wake up on the right side. They do that so well.
Yeah, they really do. Well, you know why? They waiting to their point to sing. They are so full of energy.
Yes.
After all the right side coffee they've drank.
It's true.
They go through 2 or 3 pots.
They don't even sleep anymore. Sleeping is a
no. They don't.
No, all they do is drink coffee and stay up all night.
Yeah, but I used to. Well, I didn't drink coffee and stay up all. I used to stay
I've
up all
heard
night.
about
That was
you.
my younger days,
Yes.
and we don't want to go there.
No, we don't. So anyway, lots of things to talk about this week. I'm sure we'll be talking about the meeting. Hopefully, say a prayer that Putin and Zelensky do meet in Turkey. It's not if Putin doesn't go, that sends a bad signal about Russia and their true intentions. This is an opportunity for Russia, and they should be there, even if Trump doesn't go. Trump is, I guess, his idea was let them discuss it without my being there and causing a distraction. Discuss the peace talks.
Get it worked out, and if I need to, if you get to something, then he needs to be there, and we get this thing going. Otherwise, it's a waste of time.
So it'll be interesting to see where that goes today. We'll find out more and have more to talk about tomorrow with our program. Bill, I'm just about done. We can put a fork in this one. It's been an interesting program. And
I think we were going to talk about habeas corpus, but we can do that.
Well,
tomorrow.
that's a good point. That's a very good, and maybe we shouldn't wait.
Well, it's up to you.
No, that's a very, very good point. We almost forgot to mention this. This was an interesting thing. Bill and I have talked about the possibility of the suspension of habeas corpus, and one of President Trump's advisors, Stephen Miller, has said that it's a real possibility, the suspension of habeas corpus. For those of you who don't know what that is, that means that you don't have to have hearings. You don't have to bring somebody in front of the court to to punish them, or you can eliminate that process and go from apprehension to removal without going through a judge. Okay,
right.
In this circumstance. So Miller and I guess people in the Department of Justice have really gone through this, and they say, I think we have a leg to stand on here. We can go ahead with this process. Other judges and district court judges specifically have said you can't do that. You have to have habeas corpus. Even I listened to Andrew Napolitano on Newsmax, and he was he's a judge. His background is being a judge, and he would lean that way. He would lean towards a judge having to be an integral part of the process. But so we took it, and we took the question about habeas corpus and why is it legal, or why. Well, Bill, maybe you can explain it because you were hands-on. Bill was the guy who was the posing the questions. I was with him, and we came up with the idea. But tell how it went yesterday afternoon.
Well, first off, it was your idea to do it. But anyway, the question was, can Trump suspend habeas corpus? Now, you got to realize that the AI goes by, it's the sum total of everything that's on the web. The web is controlled by the left, so it goes through some 35 different publications. And it gives the left narrative. It states a few things and says, well, the Constitution says this. But I knew that was wrong. And you knew it was wrong, going, it's woke. So we rephrased it, and it still came back woke. So I came back and I said, okay, forget about all the news sites. Forget about them. Take them out of the equation. Let's just go to, the Federalist, and let's just go to the Constitution. Then it came up with the probability of that, it's possible, probably not going to happen. It was based on certain things. And then so we refined the question a little bit more, including the fact that you've got some 30 million people that have crossed into the border or crossed the border. Some of them armed. We don't know how many are, but there are. We've got drugs crossing and all of this. And all of a sudden it comes back. It talks about the Federalist NOS 84384, because it's talking about it is an invasion. If it's declared an invasion, then habeas corpus, although it's never been done before, is permittable and can be done. And it actually gives the steps. I don't have them here in front of me, but it gives the steps to lay it out. It's a real possibility.
One of the things that we had to mention to Grok was it said the Constitution has never done this before, and it probably shouldn't happen now. And we said to it, just because the Constitution never did it before, does it not mean that it can't do it in the future? I mean, the Constitution, just because it hasn't got a history of doing something, doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to do it the way it did it before. It's going to judge everything independently in the future.
Yeah. What it's saying is, it says it doesn't preclude action. And it says just because it hasn't been done before, it does not preclude action. Congress has got to, present evidence of what's going on, that we are under an invasion with these 30 million people, the attack with drugs and the unknown.
And what
arms.
we said was, and I think this is where Stephen Miller comes in, is the president can declare that we were invaded, and Congress doesn't have to give their imprimatur. In this case, the president, being the commander in chief, has the authority to say we're being invaded or we have been invaded. By the way, Bill, speaking of invasion, this ties into this story. I don't know whether people realize this or not, but yesterday it was reported that in Michigan there was a terrorist attack that was about to take place. Did you see this story? A terrorist attack on a Michigan National Guard facility that I guess worked on refurbishing tanks. Former member of the Michigan Army National Guard, Amr Abdulmaji Mohammed Saeed, was arrested for plotting a mass shooting at a military base on behalf of ISIS. I believe you're going to find out, I hope we don't find out the hard way, that Biden let a large segment of military personnel into our country, and they're here to do bad things.
And here's the problem. He did it over a period of time. And over that period of time, one could argue, well, that's not an invasion. They came here freely, and they did this, so that's not an invasion. But the sum total and the veracity of it, yeah, there is an invasion going on, and it's coordinated invasion. And that's what that's what you have to lay out, because you don't want to sit there. Us talking about it is rhetoric, but somebody doing something about it, saying, okay, let's take this.
All right,
that's a fact. This is a fact. This is a fact, and these dots all connect to invasion.
You're not going to hear it from mainstream media. They will definitely ignore this. If you are listening to our program right now, you are like-minded and you have a podcast, I would ask that you talk about it on your show too. Get the word out that there is a distinct possibility that in our country right now there are bad actors who have been allowed into our country. And by the way, it's being completely ignored by the media. Nobody's talking about it.
This has been ongoing for a while, and everyone goes, boy, it feels like we're under attack. Yeah, you are under attack. Right before your very eyes, they have been setting up shop. And, people have talked about their cameras out in the woods where they see, it's not hunters, but it's a band of men that look like they're soldiers. What soldiers? Who? But, that in and of itself doesn't mean anything. But the fact of everything else that we talked about does. We've been under attack. We've been invaded.
There was we talked about this a couple of months ago. There was a video of what looked like paramilitary people walking through the woods in Vermont.
Yeah.
They're not coming across just the southern border. They're coming across the northern border, too. And we are apparently doing nothing we're ignoring the I live in a relatively rural area. Sometimes I wonder, is there something happening out there that we don't know about, even in my area? No,
one never knows.
We have got we always have a tendency in our country to learn the hard way, don't we? We have a tendency to think, oh, that can't happen to us. I mean, it's the United States. It's the 21st century. That can't happen. And then something happens. I mean, I'll ask you this right now. Would you have ever believed that somebody would take down two of the biggest buildings on our planet and they would do it within 2 hours? And they'd do it in maybe one of the world's, if not the world's biggest city? And that was 25 years ago.
The world to see. That was a message.
Yeah. Would you believe that somebody would take an airliner and fly it into the Pentagon? I would have thought, call me crazy, I would have thought that the Pentagon would have had some kind of defense system in place. I'm talking, and that's 25 years ago now. Can you believe that? 24 years.
Yeah, it's a long time
24 years ago. But I would have thought there would have been some kind of a defense system in place that would have stopped that from happening. But
wow.
Apparently
you know what,
not.
Jim? You just mentioned something. 911?
Yeah.
24 years ago? So we're coming up on the 25th?
Yeah, It'll be in September will be 24 years.
Okay, so
yeah, it'll
following
be 24
year,
years.
yeah.
We're close.
We're close, yeah. We're almost at the 25th anniversary of that.
Wow, it is amazing.
You know, it's a good time. You know, do you remember? You know, we shouldn't forget. So it's a good time to start remembering.
But boy,
reminding people of that.
I want you to remember something else. Right after 9/11, everybody came together. Democrat, Republican. We all stood as Americans. That's long gone. That's long gone. The Democratic Party, they couldn't stand for that. You couldn't stand united. No. We have to have a divide in this country. We can't be Americans. We've got to be Democrats and Republicans or
But now they just want us to be Democrats. They don't want Republicans.
That's true.
We have changed a lot, and that's a socialist movement there, if I've ever seen one. Now, that's a different kind of attack.
Hey, listen, we could talk forever today. It's one of those days. We'll do it tomorrow, too. We'll pick up where we left off tomorrow. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, just tune in tomorrow and find out for yourself, all right? My friends, I hope you have a great day. Pray for our president. Hopefully he has a very successful remainder of his trip, and may he come back to the U.S. Safe and sound. And I'm done, my friend. You want to add anything?
No, I'm just going to tell you, I smell the coffee percolating, and not here, but in the wind. Yeah, I think I know where to go. I smell eggs and bacon and biscuits cooking. So until the next time, hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.